it's a tough one, isn't it? That because to me, I love everything about just sort of the whole experience, especially. I mean, it's like our next gig with Jack the Lad. We're currently recording our new album, and we're not gigging again till like October. And literally, I'm counting the days. And for me, it's not just about being on stage and like sort of playing under those lights where you can't even see. And like you can literally, it's just like complete blindness up there. It's about like the people that come and see you. It's about the people in the crowd who are enjoying the music. It's about being a part of a subculture.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host Brian, and joining me today, it's another bloke out of the UK, Taison Wade. How you doing there, brother?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, pretty pleased to be here today. So,
Is this your first time doing this, or have you done a couple of interviews already?
first time doing a proper interview. Yeah, usually doing them at gigs and stuff, but yeah, not. I'm not very good at sort of doing talking on camera, but yeah, no, get used to it.
No worries. Just be yourself on this one, and then let's just get
Yeah,
the nice little chit chat, just to get to know you a little bit more. But I think when we
yeah,
were talking through Messenger or Instagram or whatever, you know how social media is. Did you say you were friends with Sasha Eldridge?
that's right. Yeah, because like sort of joined YouTube about late. I think it was 2020 during the COVID-19 stuff. I wanted to start doing drum covers and things. Yeah, just started getting a little bit more involved with the drumming community and things like that, and made so many friends on there. Because obviously prior to that, I was working professionally and things like that. So it's sort of been a nice direction change. Yeah, so I speak to Sasha quite regularly. I was actually going to go and see him perform a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, hopefully we'll actually get around to seeing him. So yeah,
That sounds pretty cool.
but
Yeah. Sacha's keeping himself pretty busy. He's doing his little vlogs of all his like live shows he's always been doing. So
yeah, I like how he does like the sort of live vlogs. I mean, to be fair, I haven't really got the patience for that because like when you sort of go to a gig, you sort of there's a lot of adrenaline behind it. Do you know what I mean? Before you set up and when you get to the venue and stuff. So yeah, he's got a lot of patience to like be able to sort of film and like set up for like time lapses and stuff. Yeah, I sort of take me hat off to him for doing that because sometimes just doing the gig, the sort of adrenaline behind that can be enough. Do you know what I mean? So
it's like how the
yeah.
sporting events are. You get the butterflies in your stomach, and then when it kicks off,
Exactly, yeah. It don't matter how many gigs you do, you always get that adrenaline. Do you know what I mean? But
is that
yeah,
something you always have a problem with before each show?
to be honest, not exactly with like nerves or anything. It's a thing of it's just always that anticipation to actually just be on stage and do what you love to do. It's just nothing better, really. To be honest,
Yeah, I guess it
But
also
yeah,
comes with the experience too. So I guess
that's it. Yeah,
yeah, just
yeah,
like everything else. But I think there's always that little butterflies. But then like it's like I got this, and then you go on the stage and it just goes away, and it's like yes, I'm
exactly.
in the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. Because COVID was a bit of a weird one because after that, I wanted to sort of take me drumming up a bit more. And like I said, I started a YouTube channel, started making a lot of friends. I mean, people like Drums by Ash Wells, Virtua Drummer, Drumatic, Ruby C Drum. There's a lot of talent on YouTube that I like to watch, and it's a thing of like when I sort of just get a spare sort of half an hour to an hour, I'll just put YouTube on and sort of just like watch through everyone's covers and stuff. And it's just really good to see like that other side of drumming. But once that sort of came to an end, sort of COVID, I wanted to like sort of because that's the thing when something like that comes along and it takes music away from you, you do have to go down other avenues. And yeah, things like drum covers were completely out of my comfort zone, sort of like setting up and like sort of leveling audio, getting all the sort of everything sounding right with the video. And they've got better over time. Now I'm on, I think, my 31st drum cover. And yeah, once you get to that point, it's sort of like it sounds so much better than like my first few. But yeah, so now I'm like performing live again. Now I'm in two professional bands, and it's like it's just I wanted to like sort of take it up a gear, and yeah, it's just been really really good. So, but yeah,
Where in the UK are you? Are you close to London?
um, I come from Essex, which is approximately northeast London, so it's not actually far from where Virtua Drummer comes from. So he's in that sort of vicinity. And quite a few people on YouTube I've actually met because they're sort of around that area. Sort of, you're talking 20, 30 miles away. And a couple of them have even become my drum students. It's really weird, sort of, how like England is such a small country when you think about it, So yeah, when you sort of like, I started a channel, I was getting people from like sort of, they're talking like 5 or 6 miles away saying, oh, this is really good. And then they'd like say, oh, I live near you. It's, yeah, really strange that, when you compare it to like sort of the USA and things like that.
Yeah, I talked with quite a few guys. Do you know Isaac Drums,
Yeah, I
Alice?
do. Yeah. Yeah. Isaac Drums, I saw, because I used to be on Twitter. I ended up getting rid of that because the reach was just really bad. So I switched over to Instagram, and that's just been a lot more community friendly. And to be honest, I thought I won't bother getting that because it's all sort of photography and things like that, and it's got the stories thing. So I thought I'll try it and see how it goes. And it's just been really good. I've met like a lot of people on there, which has been good. And I see he's on there now because he's obviously quite young. He said he like had to wait until he was a certain age. So, but yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I did talk with quite a few guys out of the UK there too. So you're Essex. I know Sacha was down there. I think he said he was across the Toms River, or I guess Thames, however.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's I think he's roughly in like sort of East London, I think. So yeah, he's sort of that vicinity. You're talking 35, 40 miles. I did a gig in London about a month ago, and that took about 45 minutes to get there, and that was central London. So yeah, it's roughly that sort of ballpark. So yeah.
That's pretty sweet. All right, so I got some questions here for you. So let's get to know you a
Yeah,
little bit
sure.
more. Let's see if there's any
Brilliant. Yeah.
surprises. Let's see if there's any surprises, and then let's see if
Yeah.
any one of the comments puts anything. So you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with a simple one. Who is Taison Wade? What got him into drumming?
So it's quite an interesting story, actually. Believe it or not, I started drumming in about 2005, and it's quite a personal story to me because at the time I had a best friend called Daniel McDermott, and it sort of comes into play a bit later. But yeah, he sort of said to me like he wanted to form a band. He was a guitarist, and he like sort of said to me, "Do you want to play anything?" And I sat there and I thought to myself, "Oh, I don't know." I was like that sort of age at school, and you're sort of not really sure what instrument because I was really into music. He was massively into Iron Maiden. So I sort of sat there and I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll try singing. And I can't remember what I was singing. I think it was stuff like Godsmack. Do you know what I mean? Like proper heavy metal stuff. And just didn't work. I couldn't sing. And he said, what about bass? And I thought, yeah, didn't really interest me. Do you know what I mean? I like bass, but not to play. So, and then his brother had a drum kit. And he just invited me over one day. He only lived up the road. And he said, you want to go? And I've still got the tapes somewhere. That's how long ago it was, cassette tapes. And we were playing like "We Will Rock You" by Queen. I was sort of playing it on the toms, and I liked it. Really liked it. It was an old Stag silver drum kit. It was, well, it was new at the time, but sort of like a novice sort of drum kit. So yeah, when they've like the really dodgy heads on them, and like all the overtones and everything, but. Yeah, no, I remember playing it, and from there on, we sort of dabbled with like forming a band. Nothing sort of too serious. And then what happened? My dad's guitar tutor. He used to sort of be in a band like in the '60s and '70s, playing guitar and things like that. And my dad said, "Why don't you get in a band with him?" And like that was sort of a complete 180 for me because I thought, well, sort of sick because it was like he wanted to play 60s and 70s stuff. I mean, you're talking when I was at college, that sort of age, like sort of 2007, I was going right through the emo phase. I had like all the spiky hair, like, I mean, I've got flesh tunnels and stuff. And yeah, I remember like I went and met him and I'm like wearing all black. Do you know what I mean? And we're playing stuff by like Swinging Blue Jeans and the Trogs and the Searchers and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you're talking stuff that I didn't really sort of fit in with. But when I look back at it now, the timing that I got from that, do you know what I mean? Because it was all just 4/4 grooves, things like that. It really helped sort of develop my timing and sort of like that pacing with being in a band. And we were a 3-piece. And yeah, long story short, so we sort of got together and we started playing for about a year or so, doing that sort of stuff, right through till about my 18th birthday. And after that, I wanted to take things a bit more seriously. So yeah, I got into a rock and blues band. They were a 4-piece, moved down to a 3-piece about 2008 time. And yeah, we started gigging quite regularly. I think it was about 3 or 4 times a week. We were gigging throughout 2009. And sadly, as that went on, I sort of really got into my music. 2011, I found out Daniel McDermott, who I mentioned, he passed away. He had I won't mention his illness, but he had an illness that I knew about and everyone knew about. But yeah, it was a thing where we stayed in touch. But my friend David, I remember him emailing me, and yeah, I remember going to his funeral, and he's to date he's still one of the nicest people I've probably ever met, and he just had his life took away from him, and I remember like sort of yeah. So from that point on, my drumming really become a lot more important to me because of the fact that it not that I owed him or anything, but it was a thing that he got me into something that I really started to develop a love for, and yeah, he just got took away way too early, and yeah, it's sort of even now, like talking about it, like sort of 11 years on, it's really really strange because I know without him, I wouldn't even probably picked up a set of drumsticks. It's a really strange feeling, but so yeah, that's pretty much how I got into drumming in the early days. Yeah, it was all down to him, and like I said, he was one of the most loveliest people I've ever met. You know, but yeah,
I see.
yeah,
And sorry for your loss. I know it's been,
yeah.
you said 11 years right now, so
Yeah, he died. It was October 2011 when I found out, and like I said, one of me like because we sort of stayed in touch, but we kind of, you know, it was like one of those things where we'd sort of message every few weeks and things, and as you do, because life at that sort of time, I was just graduating from university, and yeah, it was a really busy time, and like, of course, that sort of really did hit me, you know, because like, you know, like so I went to his funeral, and we hadn't seen each other for about 18 months either, so. And I remember he still had the drum kit. The last time I saw him, he let me sit behind it, and I was like telling him about all the new rock and blues band. And the thing was, he was really happy for me, which is something I really liked, you know, because obviously I think, you know, it would have been nice to see him obviously be able to get into music because it was such a love for him, you know. So yeah, as I said, that was pretty much how I got into drumming. Like I said, it's all down to him, really. Yeah. I don't tell a lot of people about that, but it's a thing of like I like his memory to sort of live on, you know. I went to his grave the day before his 30th birthday and things like that. And I used to have a snow globe that I used to keep on my drum kit, and I put it on his grave the day before his 30th birthday and things like that. Yeah, just yeah, lovely guy. But
yeah, no, it's those powerful stuff too. And I think even
yeah,
like sharing those kind of stories too, it helps make it a little easier in the process, if you know what I mean. Maybe
it does.
a
Yeah,
little bit
it
of like
reminds you.
pre-process.
Yeah, it just reminds you to like, especially with what's happened with COVID. There's a lot of people out there who have sort of decided to learn to drum. A lot of my students after sort of COVID, like said, "Oh, I'd really like to try it." And the main thing you just got to do in life, you just got to literally grab it and just do not waste the time. I mean, I'm 32 now, and it's like I look back and you think, even though I've sort of done everything I've wanted to do with drumming, I've enjoyed like sort of doing sort of pub and club gigs, you know, bigger gigs. It's still a thing that you can always sort of look back and you think, yeah, I want to do more. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a weird feeling when you sort of look back and you look at like them sort of in your 20s. So yeah, there's like with like especially the younger students, I just try and encourage them as much as possible. You know,
I see.
yeah,
And you did mention earlier about kind of going through an emo phase. It was either that, or I was going to say
yeah.
punk. It was either punk or emo, maybe goth. I don't know about
Yeah,
goth, but
it's weird. I started properly getting into music about 2005. I always had a thing for Metallica. Like I think one of the first, well, say the first two albums I really liked were their Reload album, which among fans isn't really their most popular album, and also Brave New World by Iron Maiden, which was Bruce Dickinson's comeback in 2000. I think my dad got it for his birthday, and I think I listened to it more than he did. But yeah, I remember I changed schools around the age of 14. And that was when I sort of met a lot more people into music. And I think that brought me out my shell a little bit more. I was able to think, oh, yeah, you know, it's okay to like music. Whereas prior, you'd sort of get bullied for it. Do you know what I mean? You still get it now at schools and stuff. So, yeah, I was into like when Bullet for My Valentine brought out The Poison. And yeah, it's one of my favourite albums still to date, you know. And yeah, like Kill Switch Engage and all that. To be fair, I think over time I've grown out of it a little bit, which kind of even stings me having to say that, but you do sort of mature with music, being in punk bands and sort of like I'm into like mod revival bands at the moment. You do sort of, I think there's a bit of a hierarchy with genres. That's why I tend to not really look at them sort of too focused, if you get what I mean. There's like, you know, I think Corey Taylor said that, you know, from Stone Sour and Slipknot. He said like, you know, there's good music and bad music. And that's the thing. It's just I'm a bit like that. I just like everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's like But yeah, I think, like I said, as you get older, you develop more like refinement and things like that. You sort of widen sort of like the spectrum, don't you? I suppose.
Something like that. And I tend to find it a little hard to like all the things in music, even though I said my podcast is like all music matters and that. Uh,
Yeah,
I tend to be more of the metal guy, and I actually dig a lot of the music that comes out of the UK. I know
yeah,
you had the underground metal scenes and stuff like that, but you were also responsible for the grandfather of heavy metal, Black Sabbath, and then later Ozzy
oh yeah,
Osbourne,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
Stones,
yeah,
and then it started with Judas Priest, and then Iron Maiden. You guys had it
yeah.
all. I mean, it just kept building from there, and you guys just developed everything. So that's why I always have much respect for it. I play a lot of it in my covers too. So
Yeah. No, there's a lot of great music come from the UK, but it's equally same with the US. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I'm open to it. It was like with the like Mod Revival covers band, because that was the thing what I'm forming at the moment. I wanted to start a punk band that had like Mod Revival influences with bit of new wave and bit of ska. And the trouble is, we found a really good singer. He's called Rob, and he plays guitar, and he does lead vocals. We're like staying a three piece. You know, we sort of discussed it. And the trouble is, I'm not going to say he's like Paul Weller from the Jam, because it takes it away from what he has as an identity. However, he is kind of like Paul Weller. Like, if you were to listen to him, he sounds so much like him, but he brings his own identity to other songs. So the band now has gone from sort of being that punk band with Mod Revival influences. It's sort of now the other way around. It's a Mod Revival band with punk influences. So because of that, you know, we're sort of now working out what to do with the punk side. Do we add some stuff from the US, like the Ramones and things like that? Yeah, we're sort of trying to mix it up a little bit now. Do you know what I mean? Like the punk side, because yeah, being a three piece as well, we've got to find out what will work. You know, because obviously a three piece, you can gig at more venues and things like that. So plus you with any sort of band, when you've got a three piece, you have less of a hierarchy. Because for me, I always find it a bit difficult with when you meet people in bands, you can really have issues with ego. And if you've got that one less member, it's always, because it's like a triangle. You just literally, if you're on the band house, I mean, right, guys, do you want to do this? You get one say yes, sorted. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you've got a fourth member, you've always got someone else who won't reply, or you've always got someone else who's going to say no, and then it sort of gets it awkward. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so with that, we're sort of like trying to develop sort of like what what our identity is. Yeah, so
I see. Before we jump into the bands, is your kit nearby by any chance?
you're sorry.
Is your drum kit, is it nearby by any chance, or is it somewhere else?
No, it's packed away in the garage, unfortunately. Yeah, well, I've
Oh,
got yeah, but because that's the thing. I recently for Wake Up the Nation, because it's a Mod Revival band, I actually got a new drum kit for that. I've got a Premier XPK, and because but I think I don't know the full history, but I know Premier. I think they basically went bust, and Gear for Music over here in the UK, they bought the rights to the name, as far as I'm led to believe what Wikipedia says. So yeah, from that, it was literally one of the last in stock. I got it in like translucent ruby, because I wanted something for that band that had a bit more heritage behind it. I usually play for pub gigs at Mapex and Birch from 2008. And how that kit's still going the way I hit it, no idea. But I've got that stacked up like vertically in my drum studio. And but yeah, the XPK, I've only played it once, and it sounds really good, even with the stock heads. So yeah, I like the fact it's got that bit of heritage. You've got bands like sort of The Who, you know, the Undertones, Blondie, do you know what I mean? The Jam, Oasis, Arctic Monkeys. There's a lot of British heritage behind that. Obviously not Blondie, but yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, so really sort of pleased to have a drum kit like that for Wake Up the Nation. So
I had to laugh when he said Oasis, because when I was doing an interview with Isaac a while back, we
yeah.
talked a good bit about Oasis, so it seems like it's pretty obvious that's one of his favorite bands.
Oh yeah,
so.
he absolutely loves Oasis, doesn't he?
I think he actually went to go see him.
Oh, did he?
I think he did, yeah. Or it was Liam Gallagher. I think that's the lead guy for him. I don't know if it was strictly Oasis. I think he'll let us know in the comments, but
yeah,
but
because next year we're playing at the Water Rats in London, which is I'm not 100%. I think that's where Oasis did their first London show. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that, because yeah, a couple of venues we played at this year have been like sort of quite legendary. We played the Dublin Castle in Camden, which is where Madness did their first ever gigs. There's literally like the home of Madness, like 1978, and they've got all like plaques up and things like that, and all these massive signed photos, like pictures of Amy Winehouse behind the bar, and it's been quite nice playing at venues like that, sort of sharing those stages. But yeah, so got quite a few next year like that.
Play on the stage of legends. I was thinking the House of Madness. That's what they probably should have called it if they were playing.
Yeah.
What'd you say? It was a castle or something?
The Dublin Castle in Camden. Yeah, Camden Town. It's like it's not far off from London Zoo. So yeah.
Oh, that's so
that part. Yeah, So, there's also the singers mentioned we might be at the 100 Club next year as well in London, where like bands like the Jam and Metallica are played. I wouldn't mind that. We just have to see how that goes. Though that's up to him booking it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What sort of drumsticks do you play with?
I use three. I've actually got some here, which I decided to bring in because I was going to show you my first sticks as well. But yeah, I use 3As, Vic Firths. In the 60s band, I've actually still got my first ever drumsticks here, which were 13th. I think it's the 13th October 2007. They were Winston 7As. So over time, in the 60s band started with 7As. I moved up to 5As. With 5As, I just couldn't. They just didn't feel right. And I never, to be fair, I never tried 5Bs, which I know are that little bit heavier. And I just tried 3As in, I think, about 2013. I've literally just used them ever since. And because they've got that little bit extra length to them as well. But I know I've had so many drummers over the years say to me, like, when they say, what sticks do you play? I say 3A, and they just go, oh, like, do you know what I mean? A lot of drummers I know don't really like them a lot. But for me, they're perfect. Absolutely love them. Even some of my drum students have like swapped to them. They've just got that little bit of extra, like, I don't know, it's like just that bit of weight to them, especially with punk music and stuff, and they're durable. And I use Vic Firth ones. I think only Vic Firth and Beta are the only two brands in the UK that actually sell them, I think, that I've ever found anyway.
I was just going to say, all your students like, oh God, this guy again, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I remember the gig recently. He said that. He said, "What 3As?" And he was just like, "No," like he like really didn't like that. But yeah,
it's the office. No, oh yeah. God, please, no, no, that sort of thing. I see. I guess jumping to your band. You said you started off with rock and blues, and where did it go from there?
So yeah, the rock and blues band. We're like I said, we started off because I do. That's one thing when I ever talk, I really digress. But with the rock and blues band, from about 2008 to about 2015, we did that, and we played all the venues around Essex and Suffolk and Norfolk. So you're talking sort of north of Essex and things like that, just mainly pubs and clubs. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my drumming career was I had a break after it. We sort of got to a point where the guitarist, he was in his sort of late 50s. He wanted to retire, do you know what I mean? And we decided that, we're going to call it a day. And, I had about 2.5 years off, I think. Well, about 2 years off I had from drumming. It felt so burnt out, do you know what I mean? I got to a point where I just didn't want to do like sort of gigging anymore. But we played a lot of like cool stuff like Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, do you know what I mean? Jimi Hendrix. It all went down really well. People loved it. I mean, there was like, we were playing sort of like around sort of Suffolk, which is quite, I wouldn't say too far from London. You're talking 60 or 70 miles. It's a county. So, but we went really, like sort of the music went down really well up that way, compared to Essex. Essex doesn't have that much of a live sort of atmosphere. It's sort of just all nightclubs down this way. As you probably heard the show, The Only Way is Essex. It does live up to the name a little bit. It's a bit embarrassing, but yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute there. How about you're going to keep continuing? But I don't know. But I think anywhere that has the word sex in it, whether it's like just meant to be a town name, you tend to think like, that's where we're going to, for all the nightclubs together and everything too. So
yeah,
I guess, how many bands have you been a part of? I know you talk about this new punk band you're trying to form right now with a trio.
Yeah, roughly about 5 or 6, I think, all in all. But they've all like sort of had a good shelf life. 2017, I was a part of a band that that I was asked to join called Spiral Scratch, and that was sort of punk ska indie new wave covers. Absolutely phenomenal band. We had a really good singer. Quite a high singer, so we had to like play a lot of stuff quite fast. which for me is fine because I like sort of aggressive punk and all that. But yeah, we did a bit of indie like sort of stuff as well. Not sure if I mentioned indie, but yeah, like sort of Arctic Monkeys, and we did like Manchester, like the Smiths and Stone Roses, and that went down pretty well. But yeah, once COVID sort of hit in, I remember I think it was the 6th of March. And we were at a venue and they had the TV on in the background. They announced, I think it was the second death in the United Kingdom from COVID-19. And then a week later, we had another gig in Ipswich, which is about sort of 40 miles away from London, roughly. And that day there was 35 deaths announced. And then a week later, we were locked down. The week prior to that, as I said, at that venue, it was completely empty. We literally just played to the bar staff and like 3 or 4 other people, including like sort of people that come along as well. It was just absolutely, we knew something was coming. You could just tell. Do you know what I mean? People were so sort of scared of like what was on the news. And yeah, sure enough, we had about 8 or 9 gigs booked for the rest of the year at that point. And yeah, of course, because none of them happened, it hit me quite hard, that, you know, because it was just when you love going out to perform and just like that gone, like taken completely away, you know. But the thing is, it wasn't just like that for me. It was like that for, when you think about it, it's like hard to sort of comprehend how many musicians that happened to. Do you know what I mean? You're talking sort of hundreds of thousands of musicians in that. I mean, you're not just talking about pub bands or clubs. You're talking famous artists around the world, the people coming to see them, the road crew, like the producers, the sound engineers. It's just like, it's absolutely crazy when you think about how much COVID really did affect people, you know. Yeah.
I see. Actually, did jump ahead a little bit because that was actually one of my other questions.
Yes.
No, you're good. Did you have any scares with COVID, or were you and all your bandmates okay?
Yeah, we all did all right. I got COVID this year. I had it in May. Somehow I managed to go like 28 months without getting it. I was, to be fair, quite careful with it. But I think at the end of the day, if you're going to be out gigging, you will get it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where if you can only be so careful. And when you're at a venue and it's a big gig, you get a lot of people who come up and go, like, shake your hand, go, oh, brilliant playing, to like all of us. When that happens, you're bound to get someone like sort of in that vicinity. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, they could be carrying it. They could be actually completely vaccinated, and they're just carrying it, and then it just happens to pass on to you. So yeah, it's
exactly, yeah.
Now it's kind of like, I don't even know if I should shake people's hands anymore, or like now there's a simple cough. You're like kind of thinking like everyone's just going to stare at them now. It's like, oh shit, that sort of thing.
I think what's weird in the UK is the media, the news channels, BBC News, Sky News. They're very I can't think of a proper word to explain it, but it's like at the moment with, you know, like sort of like Queen Elizabeth II passing away. Literally, that's all that's on the news. You don't hear anything about 9/11, for example, which should have been mentioned like it is every other year. If something's happening on the news, it will be completely like that's all you'll hear about. And COVID was like that, but now you're talking about it's not on the news or anything. So like nobody, unless you were to go on the websites and research it yourself, no one would know how bad COVID is now. So as far as the UK is concerned, everyone's just sort of living their lives like it's not even existed now. It's a really weird feeling to think like this time 2 years ago. But yeah, they're quite good at that over here on the news.
Oh, we're the same way over here. Ours is probably a little bit more, I don't know, flamboyant or maybe just inflammatory sort of thing, if you know what I mean. It's
yeah.
But yeah, first off, sorry for the loss of the Queen too. May she rest in peace.
Yeah,
okay.
It's very, very sort of unexpected. Because I said to a couple of my friends, it was about 5 o'clock GMT, and I remember they had one of the flags at half mast on the news, and they didn't announce it till 6:30. So I had a feeling something had happened, and sure enough, she did pass away at 4:30 p.m. GMT. So yeah, it was quite a shock actually. To be fair, it's like, but yeah,
I know because she's always been the queen because throughout our entire lifespans, now all of a sudden it's like she's gone, that sort of thing. So it hits you hard, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, like when you sort of say about the royal family in the UK, my approach of it is there's a lot of people that care about the Queen, you know, a lot of people. And I sort of look at it like that as a greater spectrum. She, you know, I love this country, and it's a thing of she was a big part of the United Kingdom. So it's like on that day, like I won't be doing no tuition or anything like that. It's sort of out of respect. and things like that. Everybody, like, they've granted a bank holiday and things. It's like it's a major thing. It's like feel like a lot of people feel very lost at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I guess we have to see how Charles does because I guess
Yeah.
well he's been waiting his whole life up to this
Yeah.
point. Now he's like what in his 70s, 80s or something like that.
I think so, yeah, because that's what I mean. My parents were born in like sort of the mid 60s, and it's like you're talking. She was on the throne sort of 15 years prior to that. It's a long, long time. I think a lot of the sort of older generation are really struggling with it. I spoke to my nan and granddad, and they were quite upset about it. Because she was obviously on the throne. You're talking like not far off after they were born. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
Mm.
I actually remember being in London with my parents and we kind of stuck outside Buckingham Palace because we thought we were going to see the changing of the guards, but
Yeah,
it happened at a different time than when we were there.
yeah,
Meanwhile, there's a guard holding like I think it was like an MP5 gun. He's coming to town. I was like, hey, no, there's no changing of the guard, that sort of thing. And it was like,
yeah,
that guy's carrying a gun. I think kind of freaked out, to be honest. So,
yeah,
but it was the responsible one
yeah.
anyway. But we did see Windsor Castle and
That's cool.
got into Parliament actually, but we didn't see Big Ben. Well,
No,
all scaffold up and everything. That's what we had to see there, so that was kind of the downside. But
yeah.
it was a beautiful city, a little crowded, but
Oh, it is. Yeah, I've only been there a few times. I mean, like recently, I've done like a gig there, and I think what I liked about London, it's very similar to Brighton in the United Kingdom.
I haven't been too much in
No,
the UK. I have to kind of rely on
yeah,
TV shows to be honest.
there's certain cities in the UK where there's a lot of diversity, and Brighton's one of them, especially for like the LGBT community and things like that. So I think what's good, there's certain cities in the UK, Brighton being one of them, where we sort of done a gig there, and everybody was just completely themselves. There was no sort of discrimination or anything like that. It was just really cool to like sort of be in an area like that where everyone's into music. Everyone's just themselves. And Camden was very much like that in London. When we sort of went down there to perform, there was all this street art everywhere. There's like this massive mural of Amy Winehouse, and there's just people walking about, just living their lives like as they want to be. And yeah, it was a really cool feeling. That, do you know what I mean? Because you get a lot of places in the United Kingdom, like where I live, where if you do go to certain venues and stuff, you get a lot of people. There's a lot of fighting goes on. You get a lot of discrimination. It's unfortunately it's just how the world is some places, And so yeah, there's quite a sort of different world up there. That's what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't mind living somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? The music scene out somewhere like that, yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Eventually, we'll get to that point eventually.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the dream. Yeah,
But yeah, it's almost like the saying, "Can't we all just get along?" sort of thing.
yeah, literally, yeah.
That would be nice. All right. Uh, I guess going back to COVID, did the state have to tell you like certain studios had to close down? I guess did you ever play in a studio? I guess would be my first question.
Yeah, the studio literally in the UK when they locked down, everything was locked down. I had to live off my savings and things like that, which was quite difficult. But when I started doing drum covers, the studio that let me book, they were really good. It was just when COVID was sort of kind of sorting itself out, and they like let me book and things like that. The room had to all be sanitized, and I like said, look, it's only me coming on my own. I'm going to build my kit, record some drum covers, go home. Because when I do drum covers, I've got my own drum studio, but it's not completely soundproof yet. And if I was to play my drum kit out there, I'd probably get a noise abatement order off the police pretty quickly because we've got a lot of neighbours around here. And so, yeah, what I did, I actually booked up like a recording studio and things like that so I could actually go and practice and like sort of just use my real kit to do drum covers. And I'd record about 10 in about 4 hours. I'd like set the cameras up, just record them, then go home and then just edit them. But yeah, places were accommodating if it was just somewhere like on your own. I think like if you had other bands and things, that's where it'd get messy because obviously you have to have the 2 meter distancing, and it's kind of weird when you've got screens up in front of the drum kits and things like that. Yeah, yeah, that was sort of kind of weird. Do you know what I mean? And they have to like sort of like spray all the room after, and really weird times. Yeah, really strange.
Yeah, strange times these have been. Or
Yeah, when you sort of think about it now again, it's like it just feels like another lifetime. It's really strange. Yeah.
well, our generation specifically, we had to really go through a recession. I don't know how bad it was in the UK, but I know in the US, thank God I was actually okay. And the same with my parents, but it seemed like it impacted a good few million other people. I don't know. How bad was it for you during the recession and even with COVID-19?
Well, it's not too bad. I mean, I was mainly sort of doing my drumming. I was also working in IT, so it was kind of just sort of like moseying along really. And yeah, COVID was the worst bit because I just literally started wanting to do drum tuition as well, and just got all the studio like sort of built and everything, and like sort of like I said, I didn't get it insulate like soundproofed and all that. But yeah, I was just about to like kick that off, and of course COVID happened, and it was just literally such a bad time. But yeah, it's sort of now like once COVID sort of come out, yeah, it's just been like sort of a lot better now. I think people, like I said, with the way the media is, people are feeling a lot more comfortable and less scared. I mean, to be fair, unless you were to read up about it, you wouldn't really know it was still about. That's what's really weird with it over here, you know.
Yeah, kind of same way over here. It's well, the media kind of like exasperates it, and
Yeah,
it's more entertainment value than it is like just being truthful or stuff like that. So I don't know.
yeah,
I would say you guys are probably a lot less, but I don't know how bad the right or left is, so I'll let you tell me about that. But
yeah.
we're not going to get into politics here. We are a music channel.
No, I'm sort of quite apolitical, really. Like, I don't really follow politics. It's like whatever I'd say or do wouldn't really have a lot of effect over it. So it's just a thing of I moan about the news, like if they don't ever show COVID. But apart from that, yeah, like when like we got a new prime minister, I've not even looked into it yet. Do you know what I mean? That was like a week ago. So yeah, it's a bit like that with me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, we kicked out old BJ and bring in somebody else. So
yeah.
actually, I didn't see who the name was either. I thought it was a woman or something like that.
Yeah, Liz Truss, I think. Yeah,
That's
she's
what it was.
called. Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think anyone will be better than Boris. But the trouble is, he was more entertainment value than anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like you sort of just watched him and thought, "What is he doing?" Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
He was
yeah.
the
Apart
Donald
from
Trump of British politics, to be honest.
yeah,
Oh God, next he'll be taking to Twitter and all that stuff and just start ranting and all that stuff. Please, God,
yeah.
no. Please, no.
No.
That's okay. All right. Uh, who's been your biggest influence? And if you have other influencers, go ahead.
So this is one I sort of thought about because what's weird with my drumming? When I started off, I would have probably 5 or 6 years ago, I would have said to you like probably people like Keith Moon, Lars Ulrich, Nico McBrain, those sort of people. Yeah, Clive Burr from Iron Maiden originally. People like that. The thing is, after coming out of COVID, it's sort of I've had a bit of. I mean, it's not a thing of I don't fully respect who those people are and what they've contributed to music in the same way every other artist has. But for me, my biggest influences recently have been people like on YouTube and things like that. My drum students. It's been watching how people on YouTube, like even like I said about virtual drummer, there's times when I'll like sort of just put on YouTube and you watch and you sort of see him at a gig and he's enjoying himself. To me, that's inspiring, because it's like to see people like that actually doing what they want to do and they're making it on YouTube. Because when I started YouTube, I was a little bit hesitant because one, I've got an unusual name, and two, just weren't really sure if I wanted to put myself out there that much. And you get to a point where you have to bite the bullet. And yeah, people like that. I mean, talking like Ruby C Drummer as well. I watched some of her drum cuts. She just up in my feed randomly. I think I was watching a Drumatic video and she like came up and I was watching. I thought, Christ, she's so good. But like, and she was like 12 and a half at the time. And you watch people like that and you just see such a life ahead of them. And to me, like I said, that's like influential. It makes you want to go out and practice more. It makes you want to like get behind the kit more, and then it makes you want to teach, and then you sort of get onto your drum students. And I mean, I won't mention any by name, but there's some that come along who are quite young, and they're absolutely mind blowing. The talent that they've got, even after 4 or 5 lessons, you sort of sit there and you look at them, and you think like you've just got such a life ahead of you. Do you know what I mean? And that to me, it just being a drum teacher and also being a professional drummer who goes out and performs, that is so like the influential. Probably even more so than some of the artists who actually sort of grew up listening to. It's hard to explain, but after COVID, that sort of side of it for me, it's complete sort of night and day.
I see. Yeah. I guess do you kind of work the two jobs? You do gigging one night and then you
Yeah,
do
right.
teaching.
yeah, I do teaching as a private tutor, and I do my professional drumming. That's what I do for a job now. Yeah, I absolutely love it. That's what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be in sort of like two proper bands, like gigging, and I wanted to like teach drums to pass on, sort of just to like sort of keep even with like the music, because a lot it's like what you say with Isaac drums. You know, he's into like Oasis and stuff. It's cool to see that music living on. You know, because it's music I grew up with, and you know, a few decades back, there was also really good music that you sort of still want to share with people and things like that, remind them. And yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those really rewarding things, you know, where with like drum students, like you just want to remind them of what other good music there is out there, you know. But yeah.
I see. Yeah, and like it's like the student teaches the teacher something, or something along that saying. Like
Yeah,
the teacher learns something from the students. That's kind of like
that's exactly right. I mean, because like the main teaching I try and focus on, I also try and teach on letting students be like have their own sort of identity with their drumming. I've got quite a unique drumming style, and it's a thing where I try and make sure they relax as much as possible, not get sort of too robotic with things. And when you sort of teach with that approach, some of them like seeing how they do fills and stuff, it's like they sort of blow your mind. You sort of watch like one of the younger ones, he does these fills across the kit, and some of the things that you're not even teaching them, they're just sort of like picking that up in their head. And like I said, it's absolutely amazing. Like I said, that to me is inspiring. It's like to see them developing a drum style that early on, you know, like sort of that creativity. Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing, you know. And like I said, you've then got the YouTube side of it. I mean, it's like Drums by Ash Wells. I mean, I've watched him now. I mean, I think he started his channel about 6 months after me. And when you watch that sort of progress, you know, he's constantly churning out videos, and you watch him sort of like getting better and better with each one. It's like, it's nice to see. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I said with Dramatic, I watch a lot of his videos. It's a thing of like you sort of see like when he does like them like sort of sections at the end and stuff, and it's like he's like talking over. It's like the love that people put into their videos, the production value and things like that. Yeah, to me, it's just so, like I said, influential and sort of inspiring.
I see what you mean. Yeah, you know, Ash also takes some heat because he uses the sheet music because he's still kind of learning his whole set and everything. Do you
Yeah.
teach your students to get to use sheet music too?
I haven't yet. No, it's mainly a thing of I'm going to bring that in down the line with some of them, because I've just like set up like a portfolio for a couple of them with sheet music. But the thing is with Ash, what he's doing there is he's obviously learning things note for note, and it's a good way of him building his like timing up and things like that. I mean, like I said, you've got to take your hat off to him because of like how he's built up his subscriber count and things like that. He's done so well, like being a part of the community, and yeah, no, good luck to him. Yeah, I think he does really well. So yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of wish people would kind of stop ribbing on him for that.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard a couple of times he's had that, and I think to be honest, the way you got to look at it as a drummer is we're all drummers, and no matter how you approach drumming, whether you do read it by sheet music, that's his prerogative. If that's how he wants to learn, that's brilliant. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, the same with like students. It's like if you want to be self-taught or anything like that, if you want to learn off YouTube, everyone's creating their own sort of ability and like the sort of they're stitching together their own sort of style of drumming. So it's like, yeah, there's no need for people to like sort of rib him for that at all. Yeah.
is yours? I guess also in your drum covers, and we'll jump into your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Whenever you're doing drum covers, are you listening for it, or you get some sheet music, or I guess how's your process work?
I just do it freestyle, mainly because I play like in live covers bands for a long time. I wanted to do something a bit different. You know, I wanted to be a sort of drummer where I would play it live. It can be tricky in certain instances because I actually tried doing drumless tracks. And you know, with like Guitar Hero and all those that you get on YouTube, and yeah, and they like had no drums. But the trouble is, they tended to not have that sort of timbre feel behind them. It felt like a little bit empty. Some of them that I wanted to do, especially ones like Basket Case by Green Day, and certain ones they sort of didn't feel right. So early on, I decided to do the actual the proper songs, and then just sort of mix the drums over the top, even if you could hear a little bit of the original drum track underneath. And the reason I did that as well is because a lot of the songs that I wanted to do were punk sort of songs that maybe might be a bit obscure. It's like I did Killing Joke 80s, which at the time was one of the first YouTube covers of that song. same as the Lambretta's Poison Ivy, Kim Wilde's what's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Candy Crush. I did a few like that that were quite obscure sort of covers that no one had done before. I like to at each session try and do one that isn't on YouTube. So yeah, long story short, yeah, I was doing these sort of covers that, like I said, had the drumming over the top. So I could sort of follow it, but then just sort of add my own fills and little bits around it, which would then make it my own. You know, just to try and sort of get that live feel to it. I mean, I use like one of them Boss, it's only about that sort of big, like little Boss BR80 recorder. I just put it in the corner, set the like record level down to 10%. I just use two iPhones and record it and just mix the audio over the top, and yeah, it just comes out really good as long as you put it at the hi-hat side so you don't get too much of the ride cymbal and stuff. But yeah, I just try and make it like a live drum cover, if you get what I mean, like I would with a band. Because that is for me, when you perform in a band, that is part of the fun. If you do covers, you've got to have a little bit of your own flair and creativity. It's like when we're in the sort of in Spiral Scratch. If we did like punk songs and then we were to, it would be quite jarring if you were to go from something like Pretty Vacant by Sex Pistols into something like Too Much Too Young by the Specials. If you were to then sort of completely shift that drumming style, it would be so noticeable. So what I would do is I would try and play Too Much Too Young, like I'd play it in 4/4 and like sort of make it a little bit more beefed up, for example, just to give a bit of consistency. It's little like them sort of like parts of the experience that then make it consistent, make it your own sort of, you get what I mean? You know, like your own sort of event. I try and do that with my drum covers a bit. Some of them, like certain parts, you obviously do have to keep really the same as the song. It's like if you had Walk This Way by Aerosmith, do you know what I mean? It's like you can't change that front drum groove, do you know what I mean? Things like that. As long as you keep it true where it's appropriate, you know, I always like to add different fills and things like that if I can. Just if it obviously sounds right and it's going to blend nicely, then yeah, that's like sort of my approach to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. But that normally happens like during practicing wise for me because
Yeah.
I tend to, or at least more like with the fills and anything, you didn't try to improvise it, but you try to like blend it in as best you can. As long as you're still keeping the beat, then it's all good and everything.
Yeah,
I think at the same time, the drum covers, because I use MIDI and I use an electric kit and everything.
yeah.
So using MIDI and stuff like that, I feel like it's kind of getting a little bit harder. So that's why I thought doing something with live streams and stuff like that. Have you done any live streams yet?
I haven't actually. No, it's one thing I might eventually sort of get into. I mean, recently, like this year, I've been so busy with like sort of, I had like band Jack the Lad reach out to me. They said like, you know, would you drum for us? And I said, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it was the 5th of March they'd done the audition. I had my first gig on the 19th after like not even 2 hours of rehearsing. And so I had to put a lot of work into that. And ever since then, like I was trying to wake up the nation as well. So yeah, that sort of took up a lot of time. But so yeah, live streaming is one thing I might look at next year because it would be fun. And the other thing as well that's been mentioned, Ash Wells has mentioned it a couple of times, is collaborations, which is something. Yeah, because I like being a part of the drum community. A lot of people have been so welcoming, but it's sometimes just hard to find the time. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, something definitely we'll have to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, time's always been kind of the problem too, especially if you're working multiple jobs and stuff like that. It's like that's the thing, paying the bills. This thing
exactly,
really, it's not really there yet, but maybe we're at least building a presence and stuff like that. But it still takes time. So
that's right. Yeah.
I guess. Do you do anything else on your YouTube channel? Do you, outside drum covers, do you do like what Sacha does with his vlogs and stuff like that?
I used to do a couple of vlogs. I ended up deleting them mainly because, first and foremost, with like social media, I'm not a big fan of having like this whole personal side of my life on social media. I kind of, when I got my YouTube channel, I wanted it to be more business for like the tuition, also like a bit of a digital sort of, not a CV as such, but just something where I could have everything on there. And I had a couple of vlogs and things where I would like sort of just film a little bit behind the scenes, but it's something I've never really took too seriously. And I mean, to be fair, that is probably the best advice I could give to anyone sort of like who's into YouTube, is just try and film as much as you can. I mean, Sasha's doing the exact right thing because he'll look back on that in 15 years time and he'll be so thankful. I think that's one of my biggest regrets actually, is when I think back to like Half-Time Man, which was my rock and blues band. I don't know why it was called that. I joined them, but yeah, there's a thing of what was weird about that is I used to take a lot of photos at like the gigs and stuff, but we never got a lot of video. It was around the time, when digital cameras were sort of getting better and there weren't iPhones or anything. It was like the iPhone, like 3GS and all that, back in them days. So, yeah, it was a thing of, it weren't really like sort of easy to just like sort of start filming and stuff. You didn't have like a lot of expandable memory and things like that, not to record whole gigs anyway. And yeah, I kind of wish I did sort of invest a bit more time and money into recording past footage and things like that, because it's such an important thing. Do you know what I mean? To have like that sort of digital footprint. I wish my YouTube channel had that. I've only got about 10 proper videos where I've got sort of like, I call them like drumming memories. I have a thing where I have to call it drumming, and then I like have like a sort of suffix to it. And so yeah, but no, long story short, my YouTube channel was mainly for business. It was just to sort of like promote my drumming. But I think, to be honest, the more I sort of go on with it, I think it's probably going to become more that put on there are sort of business related. They're all related to drumming, because if it's Taison Way drumming, it's got to be drumming related. But yeah, it's been kind of nice sort of having that, like sort of being able to feature other people. So I said, a couple of me drum students, like they were originally friends of my channel, and they've sort of met up and we become friends and things like that. So that sort of moved into it. I guess you can't really escape like the sort of personal side, can you? Like eventually, it's always going to be a part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Something like that. I know. I kind of used to get a little. I shouldn't really say personal, but it was kind of me just talking into it. And I still made it music related, but it was just random stuff. I'm saying like, hey, I do drumming as part of my workout routine, that sort of thing, because I know you can like shed a good number of calories. So
yeah.
And speaking of which, there's a question I missed. What do you love most about drumming?
It's a tough one, isn't it? That, because to me, I love everything about just sort of the whole experience, especially. I mean, it's like our next gig with Jack the Lad. We're currently recording our new album, and we're not gigging again till like October. And literally, I'm counting the days. And for me, it's not just about being on stage and like sort of playing under those lights where you can't even see. And like you can literally, it's just like complete blindness up there. It's about like the people that come and see you. It's about the people in the crowd who are enjoying the music. It's about being a part of a subculture. Because we're like sort of playing street punk stuff. You get a lot of people come down who really enjoy the sort of music of the late 70s and things like that. And it's going to be the same with Wake Up the Nation. It's just the whole experience I love about drumming, from the moment you sort of, even if you're just practicing out in the drum studio on the like Roland kit, or you're playing on stage and you're just having the time of your life. Do you know what I mean? You're like sort of the foundation of everything, behind the drums, and everyone, like, you've got really good bass player and guitarist alongside you. Yeah, it's just like, it's a real hard one to answer, because it's just the whole experience. Even having my dad come along, just watching in the crowd and like seeing him clap, and it's things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's it's just absolutely love it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I wouldn't be doing anything else. I just couldn't. I don't think.
Well, I know there's also I call it the therapy side, since it helps alleviate any stress. Yeah, especially after
that's the
long days and stuff like that.
That's the thing, because when with like a Jack the Lad set, they're about sort of an hour long, and for that hour, it's like time doesn't even exist. It's just you, the drum kit, and just, it's a void. It's a complete void. You just don't. There's just no. All your problems just go out the window. It's the strangest feeling. It's just you and the music, and it's very, very hard to describe. But it's a feeling for that hour that you just wouldn't trade. It's that's what I say. I'm looking forward to October already. It's like, and it's literally a month and a half away still. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean too. All right. Yeah. So, what do you hope to achieve with your social media and YouTube channels?
So yeah, at the moment, I'm just sort of, I don't really have a long-term goal with it. I've achieved, I'd say so far, the YouTube side of it. I'm glad I've made some good friends from it. It's nice to sort of like chat to people on Instagram. I don't get as much time because the thing is, I watch a lot of the YouTube videos of other people. I'll watch them on like sort of the TV, like when I'm exercising or things like that. I'll watch drum covers, and the trade-off with that is you can't comment. Because if you're watching it on a TV, sometimes it can be a bit hard to like sort of go back and then respond. But then that way, if you message people as well, then you're sort of building friendships. But I think, to be honest, what I want to achieve with that, I just want to sort of keep my channel going, bringing out more live content, more drum covers, and things like that. Especially now I've got the XPK, which I'm looking forward to recording. Yeah, it's just the thing of with social media. It's nice to sort of keep picking that up and just meeting new people. Like I said earlier, everyone you meet, they change your drumming. Like no matter who they are, they sort of add to you as a musician. Same way like you sort of meet Sasha, like talking to him, or like talking to Drums by Ash Wells when he's like, you sort of see him. It's all the same thing. Do you know what I mean? It all takes you up, and you just learn more and more as you go along. There's always something to learn with drumming. I think that's what's cool with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely too. Definitely. I was gonna say memories, but I don't know if we're totally there yet. But I was gonna say at least the friends you made along the way. Then
Exactly. Yeah.
The memories could be like the videos and everything that you made, and then that could be like,
That's right. Yeah.
that was me. I kicked ass,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So, have you ever played any sort of metal music, or have you been strictly more punk and kind
I've
of
played
jazz
a
and rock?
little bit. Yeah, I've sort of dabbled with metal, but it's a thing of I've never really wanted to be in a metal band, mainly, or like that's why I've never really dabbled with it. It's been a thing of as far as I'd go with that's probably Iron Maiden, Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, that sort of stuff. Like Black Sabbath. Yeah, that's probably as far as it went because when I was sort of about 18, I knew that I wanted to be in a band that would be gigging around sort of pubs and clubs, and there wasn't really much of a call for it. So it probably would have been if I was more near London or something like that. But yeah, I kind of wanted to focus my drumming around those things. And like I said, with a rock and blues band, it was quite sort of pub and club friendly. And because we were then a free piece as well, we could like play in. I mean, we were even playing in some places that had like sort of space for duos and things like that. They were booking us, and I mean, the amount of times we had people come up and go, can you turn the drums down, please?" And it's like you just look at them and you think like, you can only play a drum kit so quiet. Do you know what I mean? There's like sort of thousands of years of like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, like you sort of like tap
Real
them,
light
and
tap.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, we started playing in venues like that, but. The thing was though that was quite sort of fun. I really got on with the musicians, and yeah, so metal for me because I always focused on something else took a bit of a back seat, But that doesn't mean that sometimes I like to sit down and play like Scream, Aim and Fire sometimes if I'm in like that sort of mood. But yeah, in terms of like sort of playing it live or anything like that, yeah, I've never really sort of approached that. Maybe one day I might do a drum cover or something like that. Yeah.
I seriously never get why somebody used "Scream Bloody Murder" with like as a metal cover or even like a title for an album or something like that. Because
Yeah.
I know one metal band called Dev said "Scream Bloody Gore." That was like probably one of the first like death metal ones that came out in the '80s.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's just like think of something now. It's either like be really gross or try to make our letters as illegible as
Yeah.
possible because now it's like all jumbled, kind of like a bunch of spikes and stuff like that. So
Yeah, they all have like the same logo where it's like sort of like just randomly sort of drawn. Do you know what I mean? It looks like that's it, cracked leather.
I know it's like
Yeah.
how am I supposed to know what your band name is? At least back then, it used to just be distorted, but it was still legible to read. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. Have you ever toured? I don't want to say internationally because I know France is just right across the
No, we're
channel there.
Jack the Lad. It's in the. I'm not meant to say too much yet, but yeah, maybe next year. It's been mentioned France and Germany and possibly Italy. We're going to see how that goes. That's down to our singer really. He does a lot of the PR and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think next year because the trouble with Jack the Lad, they booked us in the. He found me, sorry, in the March, but he hadn't like sort of got many bookings because they didn't have a drummer, and it was all quite a whirlwind. It's sort of like just like I was their drummer all of a sudden. Do you know what I mean? It was like, yeah. So I think because of that, this year's been a little bit more quiet. That's why we sort of like said, we'll tell you what, we'll start work on the album. So I've had to like sort of devise songs alongside like learning their set list that goes down well and finding out what works. So yeah, possibly next year or the year after might be on the cards. Yeah, would be interesting.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. All right, so we are almost out of time, but we are down to the last two little segments here. But
Yeah, no worries.
uh,
Yeah,
no,
cool.
we're at this part of the podcast where now I get my interviewees a little bit for him to ask me anything, or there's anything you'd like to get off your chest. So fire away, mate.
Well, yeah, I did want to say I like the whole concept you're doing here. I think like the way you saw, because I watched like Sasha's one earlier, and I've seen a couple of other review videos. I think it's a really novel idea to like involve the drumming community in this way, and I think it's something you most definitely should carry on doing. I mean, yeah, I just think it's nice to see other drummers' perspective, like sort of what inspires them. I mean, that story I've spoke about with Daniel McDermott, I've not really told many people about that. It's quite a personal story. And the trouble is, it's very integral to me becoming a drummer, and it's something that wouldn't have happened. He changed my life in the same way that other people on YouTube have their lives changed. They learn to drum by sheer chance. They pick up drumsticks when the age of 5 or 6 years old. It's like everyone's got a story, and I think that's really sort of like a really novel thing that you're doing, like sort of letting people express themselves in that way and to be able to tell their stories. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Sacha's was kind of a funny one because I was supposed to do him way back in April, but I think that's when he started picking up doing his cover work, and so he had to cancel there, and that was a little bit of a shame. But he got a nice little break. I think it was in August. I think that's when we did it, July or August, one of those two. But anyway, I just was like, hey, you want to come on? Because he was on break then. He wasn't doing anything with like cover wise, and I guess he found some time. We almost talked for 2 hours. He actually set the record for the longest podcast interview.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was in two parts. Yeah, well, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I figured I had to because I didn't think people were just going to sit there for 2 hours just to listen to this guy jabber probably for a good while, or even like I'm pretty sure he like repeated himself a good number of times, but I had a hard time trying to even like decipher it. But it was like whatever.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting him one day. I was meant to go and see him at the end of August, and there's just like a couple of bits going on like for both of us, and but it's the same with like other people in the community. So like I said, I've met a couple of people now, like sort of just friends who have like subscribed or just met by chance. And like I said, with the UK, it's kind of, it's not the biggest of countries. So you can travel sort of like 3 or 4 hours and you'd be like the other side. So there's a lot of people out here, that I'd like to meet. I mean, it's like sort of drums by Ash Wells. I think he doesn't live like massively far away. But it'd be nice eventually, it's one thing next year. I'm hoping to sort of meet more people. It's like I said, that's like quite rewarding in itself. When I go and see sort of Sasha perform and stuff, like I said, he doesn't live too far. It's nice to just sort of keep picking that side of it up and have that as a part of the community. Do you know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely too. It would be nice actually to get all your books together and then we just party in London. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that would be nice. That would be nice. It would be nice to get together. So something to plan in the future, though. We'll see what happens. Did you have any other questions or anything else you want to say?
Don't think so. No. The only other thing I was going to say, which is on the list, you said about preferring electric or acoustic, which I wanted to talk about because it's an interesting sort of subject that I sort of tackle with a lot of my students. I've also got, the Natal. It's called the DNA Stealth. It's like the kit with the mesh heads. Have you ever heard of that?
I pretty much roll with Roland, but I might have seen something like that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got a Roland TD11KV that I bought in 2013. That's primarily what I teach on. But I bought one of these Natal DNA Stealth kits. It's basically an acoustic kit. It's like a miniature one. It's got like 13-inch snare, 14-inch floor tom, and like just a sort of small kick drum. But yeah, it's basically an acoustic kit with mesh heads, and it's got the silent cymbals. So I use that mainly. So if I'm showing students things, you can basically talk over it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, out of all the kits, my students always favour the electric one, even though it's the one that I didn't buy the most recent. But yeah, that's the thing. When like with electric and acoustic, I think what's cool about them is they both have they have their own strengths. Do you know what I mean? For me, I've never really wanted to use an electric kit in a gigging situation because I just like, with like punk and rock music, I like that power that you can achieve from sort of an acoustic kit. Do you know what I mean? And like sort of like Sabian AAX explosion cymbals, you're going to get that real sort of power behind it. But at the same time, an electric kit, you've just got, I mean, it's like you've got the built-in metronomes, you've got songs you can play along to, you can literally change every parameter, you can record the MIDI. It's like they've got such strengths to them. Do you know what I mean? It's like I would always play both. I think that's the thing. They've always got their own sort of whatever you want to use them for. They're always going to have a strength over the other one. So yeah, that's all I want to say really. I just saw that on the list. I printed it out. So I can get it while you're.
Well, I figured I did have on my questions here, but unfortunately, jumped all over the place there. It seemed like one thing led
Yeah,
into another. But anyway, have you ever thought maybe combining the two together? Kind of do what Neil Peart did
I
with.
have a couple of times, yeah, because I've seen a couple. Most recently, actually, I saw my guitarist Stephen Curtis from Jack the Lad. He's also in a UB40 tribute band, and their drummer's got like Roland kit mixed with like a hybrid, mixed up with. I think he's got like a Mapex Armory, and yeah, he's got like the Roland pads, and it sounds really good. Sort of some of the like 80. I think he had like the TR-909 sound on the snare at one point, and it sounded really good. So yeah, something to think about, because that's what I mean. It's nice to sort of have like old and new, sort of tradition and modern, like that sort of thing. Because when you think about it, electric kit's really just a keyboard, with like the way they sort of work. It's such, yeah, there's such a good sort of thing to combine if you want to sort of add different sounds, and especially you've got a good amplifier as well. Yeah.
I would say more the touchpads, but maybe more the keyboard. Otherwise, we're saying like it's a big round sort of thing in terms of the electric drum sets and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean like the sensors, how they trigger, like on a MIDI board, yeah, like it's quite clever how they sort of work, really. Because some students, when you sort of sit there for the first time and you press the play button and the drum kit plays itself, they just like look at it like, and they can't understand how it's doing it, But and if you don't know, do you know what I mean, how they work? But yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
It'd be like the Scooby Doo, a ghost, that sort of thing, ghost or something like that. That would actually be a good. Oh, the kids. Oh god, that would be. They'd probably be running scared and everything. Actually, no. Then you dress up like either Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees and just come out with either the machete or the glove hand and all that stuff too. Oh, that'd be awesome. But yeah, for the electric sets, and I always kind of liked it because it is a lot of noise reduction, does help with the MIDI and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about tuning at all. But I can see what you mean in terms of like the live setting, because in terms of like the punk music, rock, metal, and all that stuff, there's more of a feel to it when it is live.
That's it, yeah.
Whereas in terms of like hip hop and R&B, it's like it's just electric music anyway, so it's pretty much like it doesn't really matter at that point. So
yeah, I mean, I think the good thing as well is with electric kits, they've come such a long way, and even now compared to like my Roland that I got in 2013, when you look at there's a video of the Slipknot drummer playing. I can never remember his name, but he's playing like the new Roland. The one that actually looks like an acoustic kit, and it's absolutely phenomenal. The sounds that they're getting from it, and sort of the build quality behind it as well. Even obviously it's bit processed in it, but yeah, it's just amazing how put them together. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't mind one. Do you know what I mean? Even though they're like £4,500, So yeah, no, it's amazing what technology can do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It was either Joey Jordison or Jay Weinberg, I think it is. Is it?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was the one after Joey Jordison who we sadly lost, didn't we, a couple of years back? Yeah, that's gone quick, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I know a couple guys I've spoken to, even one guy up in Scotland. He was a big fan of Joey Jordison, so
yeah,
he even had the sticks and everything too. So
oh really?
Yeah, that shows love right there.
Definitely, yeah.
Did you have anything else before we jump to the last question, or?
No, I think that's everything, mate. No, it was brilliant. I had a good time. That's good.
So you probably already know what the last question is, but I always like to say it anyway because I like to at least get people's 2 cents on it. What sort of message of hope could you give to musicians out there?
Message of hope. Now, I think the best message of hope is just I know the trouble is it's a very cliche one, but it's just follow your dreams. Don't waste your time, especially now COVID's gone. I think that's the hope now, that COVID, I say gone, but it is on the way out. Do you know what I mean? Like things are getting better. That's the hope right there. Do you know what I mean? That venues have reopened, live bands are starting again, and you've just got a complete opportunity. And I think COVID, which is obviously one of the worst things to happen to the world in modern times, it's a thing that's also been quite a reminder that, like I said, life is really precious. It can be, like I said, with like Daniel, it's like it can be over like that click of fingers. And my message of hope would be just sort of, while things have like picked up, just literally follow your dreams. Just just put as much time into what you love. Don't sort of get stuck doing something you don't want to do. That's my best advice. 100%.
I see. And spoken like a true prodigy, as I always like to say. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I always like to say, because even though it does seem like cliche answers, there's at least something out there, and it's at least it should like invigorate people to get up and do something. At least I would hope
Yeah,
for people
most
who watch this
definitely.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Taison, we've reached the end of my podcast right here, and we talked for over a good hour already. Do you have any last words or any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, just a shout out to all the people that have subscribed to my YouTube channel over the months. It really, like, as much as you like say, I really appreciate it. I genuinely do. Do you know what I mean? It's like whenever you sort of go on the YouTube Studio app in the morning, you see like you've had a few subscribers and you get a couple of comments here and there, and you sort of, it means a lot that people do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like to go out of their way and watch your content when you sort of, you know what I mean? There's so many people out there in the world. So yeah, just thank you to everyone that supports me. It'd be nice to sort of meet new people over the months. Like I said, I'm mainly active on Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, just thank you to everyone for supporting me. Yeah.
I see. Are you just strictly on YouTube and Instagram, or how else can people reach you?
I use Facebook Business, my tuition side, which, to be honest, Facebook isn't the most useful when it comes to reach. Sometimes you'll put a post up, and unless you pay to sponsor it, you're talking it'll reach like 10 people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and that's literally just reaching. That's not even likes. It can be quite. So I tend to not really use Facebook that much anymore. I know a lot of my friends and like sort of people the generation above do. So I tend to sort of keep using it, but just so they can see what's going on with my life and like sort of so I can interact, and things like that. But yeah, mainly Instagram and YouTube. I've got my link tree on there as well, which takes to like my drum intuition website and things like that, email address. So yeah, best way to get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So everyone, I guess today was Taison Wade. We got another bloke out of the UK and everything. This was a killer interview, man.
Oh, thank you. Cheers. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. Maybe we'll do a collaboration one of these days. So
yeah, brilliant.
We'll talk about that more in detail a little bit later. But till then, stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.
Thanks very much. Yeah, take care. Thanks. Cheers.